Hey there, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. Sometimes this stuff actually works. Okay.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, how's it going?
Going all right.
Hard to believe it's another month. I missed the last one.
Yeah.
So had a choice between this meeting or being on a cruise ship. It was just
That's a tough one. Where'd you go?
We went down to the Eastern or Western Caribbean. My wife's a big square dancer, like
Okay.
a square dancing. So that means I'm in square dancing. Like, 700 of us on the ship. So we had a big group.
Wow.
So, and I probably knew 60, 70 people, which is different for a cruise. Normally you go on a cruise and you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Here we knew, 60, 70. Our group was 700. So completely different experience. And we go on another in 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
10 years ago on my wife's and I's first anniversary, we went on, it was our first cruise. We've only been on 3, but it was our first. We bumped into these newlywed couples in their 20s and they kind of latched onto us. I think we reminded them of their parents, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Hold on, let me let my cat out of here. Anyway, so they hung with us quite a bit.
Yeah.
So last week they called us up, or 2 weeks ago. It's like, it's their 10th anniversary of their, their honeymoon. They're like, you guys up for another cruise? It's like, I'm always up for another cruise.
I love cruises.
I could live on those ships.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we'll go do this.
Yeah. Hey, Bromley.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going? Sounds like George might actually be able to join.
I know. I was like, what?
Yeah, don't tease us.
And then Marcelo was asking if we're having a meeting, and he's like, oh, wait, I see it. Things have been so hectic and busy and been sick and all that since the cruise. I haven't even had a chance to watch the video from last month's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Marcel's been doing some great stuff there.
Yeah, I keep wanting to get started on it, and then life keeps interfering with me.
Yep. Keep being told that technology is supposed to somehow give us all this extra time and stuff. Yeah, never materializes.
No. I mean, probably realistically, yeah, but we find other things to fill it with.
Yep.
Yeah, the bandwidth, you just always fill it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if tomorrow I wake up and I'm making $1 million a year, I'll still find a way to be broke.
That's a whole different meetup conversation.
Yeah.
We can talk about finances next month.
I'd have a prettier car and a bigger house, but I'd still be broke.
Brian, have you gotten the new VS Code update yet? Or anybody on here?
Let me see. I saw you posted that.
We had pushed out some new device scanning stuff, and we wanted to see if it was working for people. I want to do like a full meetup talk on some of these enhancements in a couple of months because I think it's gonna be really cool. But in a nutshell, we basically found a way to reduce the broadcasts to almost zero. when you open a panel, it'll do one, or when you launch and we haven't done one yet, we'll do one. Like we were doing it every second before because the logic was just very bad. It wasn't on purpose, but we like, oh, we're gonna cascade it back, and then we're gonna do it, and it just. You should be able, Brian. I know you said you just leave it off because it was awful. Like I would love for you to turn it on and see if it bothers you anymore, because I think it'll work. Great.
Yeah. It looks like I'm still on 2.60.1, and
Okay.
I don't see an option to update.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's 2.61. What if you go to install another version? Is it in the list?
Yeah, it's true.
You turned off auto updates. Maybe. I don't know.
Ron, you made me think of a thing many years ago, decades ago. HP had a bad update on their printers. Start sending out ARP packets across the network at ungodly rates across the whole network. They were just basically a self-contained denial of service attack on your network. They resolved it, but it was a bit of a nightmare while it was going on, because they were just perpetually, just like any HP printers out there, as fast as it could broadcast it from every machine running this driver. All you had was collisions on your network.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was bad. It was quickly resolved, but it was bad.
All right, give me like one more minute. We can get started.
Yeah, I saw an ass on for a second. Now I don't see him. Well, there's 5 others, so
He's there. He just doesn't have his video on right now.
yeah, that's what it looks like. For presentation, I have my screen on one of my regular size screens, and it's so weird not being on the ultra wide 48. Suddenly, it seems like you're looking at it through a little bit of tunnel vision. But the ultra wide 48 doesn't get along with Google Meets real well. And these days, the 48 isn't even ultra wide anymore. Hey, George, you made it.
At long last, gentlemen, yeah. It took me half a year.
So middle of the night for you?
No, it's just dark. It's England. That's how we rock in the Shire. Good to see everyone.
Hey, you too, man.
I could put the light on, but that would be too easy.
All right, well, Scott, you wanna get going?
Sure. I had said in the message I can show this link thing. If there's any other pressing topics anyone wanted to bring up first or anything.
No, I think let's just do yours first, and it can spark some thoughts, and we can fill up at the end. But it was the kind of topic to start with, so let's do that.
Well, I am going to do a screen share. Window. Okay, can you guys see a code screen?
Yes.
All right.
If you want to, maybe Scott, zoom in one more, just so that it compresses a little bit better. Just Control plus or Command plus, whatever you're on.
Let me try to get into here.
There you go.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. What I did, I don't know how many of you are old C# programmers, but I am.
Woo.
And it had a thing called LINQ, which was just chaining functions and lambda and lazy loading. And I miss it. And I used it heavily, and I loved it. And Roku didn't have it. So way back when I tried to create it, and I've been kind of working on it since, to where we have that in Roku. We don't have lazy loading because I haven't bothered messing with it because I didn't see the point. Or didn't see the point enough to be worth my effort and time in my free time. It does lambdas, which Roku's kind of terrible at, and it does chaining, which Roku does just fine. Anyway, so I was just going to kind of quick go through what I put together or what I'm in the process of putting together. You know how pet projects are, they're never actually done. Just a forever work in progress. But this, on the right screen here, you see collection BRS. Collection is just a superset of array. It's just the Roku arrays. It actually has pass-throughs for all the Roku array functions, and then it has a bunch more functions. So I'll expand in a sec. When you do it, you see that line 2 where if the definition is invalid, I create the definition. This array thing has about 80 functions in it. So if every time I instantiated, when I walked through and created the 80 functions, it's just not efficient. So what I do is I create the function table once, I store it, and then I can just append it every time I need it. Actually runs about twice as fast doing it that way, other than the first time you ask for a collection. So if it's not existing, I create it. Then I just create a new set of values. Values is the actual array that has the data. And then I append all these functions. And the functions is just a whole lot of stuff to deal with arrays. And then a lot of the functions that were in LINQ, you know, intersections, you know, except clauses, select, which is like a translate, maps, first, last, single, sorting, so on, so on, so on. So it's just a bunch of functions, and most of them return itself. So like if you do a select, it does a bunch of stuff, it modifies the array, so it is a mutating system, and then it just returns itself. So what that lets me do, and let me get this out of the way, and I just have a silly little demo app here. But if I tell it to run, I can create a collection, which is just like creating an array. If you don't give it any items, you just have an empty array, nothing more. So I tell it to create the collection. Since it's the first time it's created, it had to go through that whole thing of creating the 80 functions. But now they're stored in an M variable. So if I do another collection, which I'll do in a minute, it's just going to copy those functions again via append. And like I said, runs twice as fast. We're talking milliseconds anyway. It's only if you're dealing with a bunch of arrays it would even matter. So I have all this stuff where I'm just various ways of appending data to the array. And then I dump it. So let me get rid of this. Try to show as much as I can on my little screen. And I now have an array of a bunch of items. I started with the 6, I added the 7, 8, and then I added a list that happened to have 9 and 10, and then just various different functions, different ways to put data into the array. Next line is the exact same thing, just all strung together. You know, because this whole thing is set up on continuing where, you know, chaining functions together. Well, if I hit this line, I get the exact same thing. It's a new array. I have, you know, well, reassigned so the old one gets garbage collected. But I added a bunch of stuff, and then the last item is telling it dump it, which is just a screen output. The idea being is dump can be embedded in the chain. It does the dump and then hands the array back so you can keep going with other stuff. Well, the problem is strung that too long is unreadable. So I have another one where I just split it across 2 lines, doing the exact same thing. And then the last one on this little part of the demo, instead of creating a new array, it just clears the existing one and then strings a bunch of stuff again. Let me see that output window again. They're all the same thing. It's just the idea of chaining the functions. So, which is a construct I happen to like. It'd be nice if Roku allowed us to do continuations where I could do things like this, like I can in C, but we just don't have that ability in Roku. So I end up doing something more like this, where I just say, hey, grab the variable again and continue with what I was doing. Because again, these are all chainable functions. So if I get past that, then it has a bunch of other functions it can do. So I'm telling it on this line, I told it save the array. What it did is made a snapshot that I can go back to later. So I can continue mutating this array, but my snapshot is safe. I can always revert back. And I told it, give me the first item in the array, which is first. Give me the last item in the array, which is 110. Give me the count, the capacity, is it resizable? Next one, I tell it shrink to fit and give me the back. The shrink to fit, I'm just kind of, that was just there to show all the functions in Roku arrays are in this collection too. Just some of them are pass-throughs and are chainable. So Roku added shrink to fit to their array, so I added it to this thing. So now, if you look, instead of 41 items in the array, there's 33 items in the array matching just what shrink to fit does. I can tell it to do a slice, and then I told it dump it to an array. And I had the slice save first. So here on join one, I told it, make a, I didn't have slice, I had this line save first. Make another snapshot called test. There's still the load snapshot, there's two now. And screen it down to just string variables and show them to me. So it says all I have that's a string is 11. Now I restore test and I tell it select the string of everything. So just run it through a two string. There, and it showed 9, 10, 11 because the restore brought the old data back. And I just told, give me, turn them all to string, show them to me. And then I'm going, go back to the original, restore the load and show me all the strings. And then restore the load. Nothing. Restore the load, get rid of load, just unsave just means I'm not going to use it again, go and delete it and reclaim the memory. And select strings, and then it shows me everything because I no longer had it limited just by what I had mutated when I was messing with test. So just, you can save, you can bring back old versions, old levels of the array. I wish we had lambdas in Roku. That was what this line was, to where I didn't have to do this whole function declaration on a select statement.
When you say lambda, you mean specifically just that there's like the shorthand rather than
the shorthand. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
right.
You know what I mean. We do have lambdas. I wish we had the shorthand.
Right. Yeah, because I was like, those are lambdas.
Yeah, I wish we had good lambdas.
Can you hear me?
Hmm?
Yeah, quick question. You said you can unsave when you unsave after you load, you do not lose the reference, right? So
right, because what load did was took the snapshot and deep copied it back to the primary. So when you save it, deep copies to a snapshot, so any future mutations don't affect it. Load, deep copies the snapshot back, and unsave just is like, I'm not going to use that snapshot again. Go ahead and reclaim it.
Okay. Yeah.
Internally, and if I go here, it's not what I want saved. It creates a save and then just deep copies.
Okay.
And if I unsave it, just looks, if I have that save, just delete it. So if I did an unsave before the restore, I wouldn't have been able to do that restore. There'd have been nothing to restore. But I'm just, and if you don't even bother with unsaves, it's not, we're not talking a ton of memory unless you have some, massive video array or something, Anyway. Does that answer?
I can't remember. You were using the deep copy. Does that like, right? You use a deep copy, so it's a full clone of everything.
Full clone of everything, because I have no idea what you're going to store in here. And I don't want mutating in your functions to be messing with the snapshot. So I do a deep copy. Otherwise, there'd be a chance that things you do here would be affecting the snapshots, which would be kind of bad. So, good to go. So here I start a new one, and I actually, instead of doing all those append and all that, I just embed the data. So now I just have a collection of numbers 1 through 10. And I tell it to reverse it. We have reverse in our standard arrays. This one is just chainable. Then I tell it to resort it back to normal. And then I save it. And I tell it to do some replacing. So it replaced 1 with 11, 10 with 100. There was no 25s. It didn't do it. And, but it just what it could find, it replaced. And then I tell it restore it, and I should be back to 1 through 10. Then I can do some simple, min, max. There's a bunch of functions like that. These aren't really chaining functions. Here you're actually asking for an answer. So it hasn't mutated the data. It just got 4 values calculated from the data. And I tell it, is there anything above the number 5? Well, yeah, there is. Is there anything above the number 55? No. Is everything below 20? Yeah. Is everything above 5? No. Just, again, LINQ functions from C#, and then how many things match this? And then a reduce function that runs a accumulator on every item in the array. So it basically says start with this value and perform this on every item, modifying the resulting value. So, and again, all this is lambdas. You're constantly sending in functions to be processed. So I go down, and it can, because an array can handle anything, including associative arrays. So here I say clear it and add all these cities, and save it as cities. Roku sort does a sort. And then if you resort, you lose the first sort. There's nothing stable about it. So what I have is order by, which is just a sort. Hold on, let me kill this. Just a sort. Then by is a stable sort. So here I've told it, I want you to sort it by state, and then I want you to sort it by descending population. But because then by is stable, it won't mess up the original state sort. So if I tell that to run, and again, I'm kind of crunched on the screen here, I have population by state. Then I can tell it to do a reverse state. I'm sorry, I had city by state. I can tell it to do a reverse state, and it is backward state order in order by population. And then I told it, bring it back, skip 2 of them, take 7 of them, and I get some of the middle ones. But because I brought it back from my save, all the sorting is undone. It's back in the order I gave it. But if you notice, New York, Los Angeles are gone, and everything after Dallas is gone because I told it to take a slice of it. But instead of slice, I did skip and take. And then finally, I tell it, basically do a where clause to where I just want items in Texas. So again, if you're familiar with the Lincoln.net, it's basically the same stuff. So go on past that. I restore 10. I do some mapping. Sometimes when you do these nested things, you have to hit F10 multiple times because it's going to stop on every sequence in your process. So brought them back, and this time I told it to do some functional, raising to a power, that kind of stuff. And so that's what the map was, to where converted it to other values, calculated values. And then I tell it drop it to a dictionary. And because here I told it true, I said I want all values. You know how if you add duplicate values to an associative array, you lose the old one and you get the most recent. If I had set that to false, I would have had an array of 816, or I'd have 3 items, 816 and 128. It would have just taken the last one of each. But because I told it that first true, I want arrays, it gave me every value of that type. Because I told it, take it to a dictionary of the length. The function was how long. So these are all single character, these are all 2, these are all 3. I mean, it's a silly example, but it shows the point. Then I do it again, and this time I tell it I don't want a dictionary. And this time I just wanted Oh, I squared it. So the first one, all the ones came up, the first one was a 1. Then it got 16 squared it, and then it got 256 squared it. Finally, I restore it, and I do a, map function. And I mean, a lot of this is just nonsensical stuff, and then on this one, if you notice, I have a break there, which I'll get into in 1 second. It broke because I told it to. I said restore it and then break showing demo. And what it does is make sure you're in dev mode. If you're in dev mode, it shows you the header and breaks. So in the middle of what you're doing, you can see what it's thinking. And then continue. So if this was in production, it just becomes a null operation. Just like throughout the thing you've seen where I'm dumping data, in production, dump is a null op because we don't have an output window to send it to. So both of those codes first do a check just to make sure we're not in dev mode. And if we're in dev mode, it allows it. Otherwise, it just dumps it. But that's basically the whole system. And there's tons of other functions in there. Like I said, intersections, unions, a lot of other functions. But the idea is a bunch of them, you give it a sub function to execute, and you can chain them together. The other thing, a lot of these sub functions allow you to supply another variable called data. Anything that involves mutating, you can add another variable called data. I've not finished coding this yet because I've just been dealing with other stuff. But the idea is there will eventually be a notification system. And what that'll do is anytime data is mutated, it'll call this notify and give you what it did, what the results are, and any data you sent to the notify. That way you can do the equivalent to closures where you can send contextual data, and when the change happens, it will tell you, hey, here's that external data you wanted to, because we don't have closures in Roku. I want to add the notify system. I also want to add the ability to silence it so that if you're going to do a bunch of changes in a row, like here, I would have silenced the notification there and re-enabled it there. That way I could do a bunch of changes without just hammering the callback system. And what I want to do is make the callback system to where it can deal via a callback routine or via a message port or via the RO render thread, depending on how you're using this. You can't do certain things if you're in a task or not in a task and all that. But I want to create that notification system. The other thing I want to do is add a dictionary. This is collections for arrays. I want to add a dictionary.
For, Scott, real quick.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that notification system. Like, what are you practically using that for? Like when you're
it doesn't exist yet.
Oh, okay.
It would be an observer.
I see. Okay.
If you observe an array, you don't really see if items in the array changed. So if you look in my code, and again, this really isn't written fully, well, like push.
Gotcha.
I do the push, and then I call notify. So that if you have notifications enabled, which you can't because it doesn't exist yet, on whatever mechanism, be it a callback, be it a message port, be it a render thread queue, it will say, hey, I've changed the data. Something mutated the data. Here's the call, here's what it was, and here's your contextual data, if any. So all through this code, you'll see this data equals invalid. So basically, if you don't give me contextual data, I assume there is no contextual data. Closest I could come to closures in a Roku. Then the other thing I eventually want to do is a dictionary system, basically the same system, but for associative arrays, that also some of the mutators, I can do like a 2 collection, and collections could have a 2 dictionary to where they can cross over to each other and keep the chain right on going. Right now, you can drop, like you saw this part here where I dropped it to a associative array. I can do 2 dictionary or 2 AA. I can also do into AA where you supply an associative array, and that way the chaining continues. So if you just say like 2 lists, you just get a list. And you can't chain past that because you've left the chain. The data's still there. You still have your C variable or whatever you called it. But there's also an into list where you supply it a list, and that way the chain can keep right on walking. because it just returns the M variable, the collection variable, like all the chainable calls do. But in my free time, this is something I've been working on and playing with for a long time. Picked it up a few months ago, put it back down. But this is something I've been playing with because I did use LINQ very heavily in C#. I like LINQ, and Roku just didn't have anything like it. The chaining and the lambdas here doesn't add anything we couldn't already do. Some of the functions, union, that kind of stuff, where I added a bunch of stuff that the array system LINQ in .NET could do, is stuff that Roku didn't have built into it, but it's stuff easily written. The other one this thing has is there is a for each chainable function, to where you can do for each, give it a function, and it will process it on every item in the deal. Kind of like a select, but it's not mutating. For each just does, you could do prints or you could whatever, but the chaining continues. But anyway, that's the whole system. Like I said, it's a work in progress. I wanted to have it done, but it's never done. But all the stuff that Arrays has that were fine as Roku did them, I've just put pass-throughs. So I have the shrink to fit, we have push, we have this, that, and the other. If there wasn't anything for me to add to it, I just duplicated it in here and just called it on the values, the internal values, so that all the functions, including the new functions of arrays, are still here. So you don't lose anything, you just get a more powerful array system. So anyway, that's about it. That's all I had to really show. Nothing spectacular.
This is already two questions. This is already available in GitHub or somewhere that we can try.
I have it on Git, but I've made a lot of updates since then, so I kind of need to re-update the.
Okay. And second question is: have you tested it in BRS Fiddle to see if the simulator runs this, or not tested yet?
Have I tested it where?
In the BRS Fiddle. No. Okay, I will try that. Okay.
And I'll send you the code. You can play with it. But yeah, it's been a little pet project of mine, and like I said, I want to add the dictionaries thing to it also. Because they were very handy in .NET. The one thing that kills it, like I said, if we could ever do things something like this, and I asked for it, and the response was, why would you want this? Well, this is why I wanted this. To me, this is more readable. When I want to string it together, I want it to function as a chain. On my 48-inch screen, if it goes to character 500, I don't care. I have a wide screen. We don't all run that. I wish we could do this, and Roku just doesn't allow it.
Broly, can't we do that on the VS Code extension, like support this, and then like in the build process, we would like reconstruct the line, something like.
So the challenge is, if we do this in the VS Code extension for all code, you now must use the VS extension to build your production code. You could do it for temporary one-offs, but if you're not using the build system that does this in your regular pipelines, your code will be broken everywhere else.
Right.
And that's BrighterScript, which we could potentially do it in there.
No,
right?
yeah, I was considering BrighterScript really, if you in BrighterScript, because that will be the parsing process anyway, right?
Yeah.
And line numbers also, you deal with that, right? That's another problem, will be line numbers. So if you do that in BrighterScript, will be actually an incentive for people to use Scott's code, because people, I want to take the advantage of that and use this break line.
Yes and no. I'm not cleared to use BrighterScript.
No, then you need to use one single line. I'm talking about, like, in the case of Brighter, of course, if Roku allows that in the future.
No, Scott. You don't need to use BrighterScript for somebody else to be able to use BrighterScript to put their usage of your library on multiple lines.
Right. But if I did this and I'm not free to use BrighterScript, it wouldn't work for me.
Right. Right. But it's a consumer.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, doing it in VS Code would screw with a lot of the CI/CD systems.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a wish list I had. Even if it was on only dereferencing, dotted notation, it could do it. Or if we had and there was a conversation we had with Luke and Ben, 2 months ago, And this was why I brought that up, saying I wish we had continuations. And then the other one that kills me, like I said, I wish we had a shortened lambda syntax at our disposal. Because typing out the whole function thing and all that, we could shrink it quite a bit. No harm done. But, you know, lost my train of thought. It would be nice. So I saw a message, and I don't have Slack up. Let me get Slack up where I can see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions on Slack. They've been asking them in
in the chat
I
here.
don't think anybody's asked it in the chat either. But yeah, people have just been speaking up, which is great. So
Yeah.
one thing I've been thinking about in BrighterScript that would make this entire kind of flip this. Now you'd have to use BrighterScript in this case, so this isn't going to help you, but I'm just going to dream for a minute.
Yeah.
So C# has this concept of extension methods.
Yes.
And so it's not quite the same, but what I'm almost imagining is you have to make that object of all the operations like in every scope. And then you got your marshalling, which reads from that variable dot every single time. Realistically, now this is going to be a little gross, but I don't remember what these functions were, but we'll just call this splice for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and then you return the thing inside of it. I don't really care what it is. So then I need to zoom in too, don't I? Someone say,
you're not sharing your screen. I guess I need to stop sharing.
I think I am. You guys see my screen?
I can see his screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I need to stop sharing mine then.
Yeah, probably need to stop sharing yours. Yes.
There we are.
Yeah, so you could do this. Right, to chain
Yes.
them, and that just gets really gross. And so I was almost thinking of some kind of mechanism where you could say, again, I don't know how the syntax would be, but basically you could write something like this.
And that's what I was trying to do here.
Right,
Exactly
and
that.
BrighterScript would transpile it into this because it would know how to flow them through.
Right.
In return to that, this doesn't exist yet in BrighterScript, but it would be a really, really powerful mechanism for augmenting existing objects. It wouldn't exist at runtime. It would only be a build time transformation, and it would require V1 and like really deep type understandings to know how to properly do it. But that would remove a ton of your overhead with some of this stuff. It actually makes it a little complicated. Some of your things would, like the snapshots and stuff, could get a little wonky.
Right.
But
where this gets weird, what you're doing, that's great. But the one you showed were splice of splice of splice.
yeah, I just didn't have other functions. Yeah.
Well, let's say instead of splice, you were doing like 6 different commands, and they all had different argument structures. Some took 3, some took 1. Then doing the nested like that gets really convoluted.
Well, not from a transpiler perspective.
Not to transpiler, but to keeping track of it. So to me, the line 6, which is what I was trying to do here, is much cleaner because it keeps your parameters with the function.
Absolutely. I'm not advocating for doing this. I'm thinking I want to write it like this, and I want the transpiler to give me root level function names, so I don't have to be doing like variable marshalling, like reading off of the AA every single time.
Right. And that was the whole,
Yeah.
line 8 was the way I was doing things before.
Yeah, that's gross. That's no fun.
Just you can do continuation lines with that.
Yeah.
But it's unreadable. It's just horrible. But and again, a lot of it's the way I did this just because I like LINQ. It was kind of selfish the way it's just I like it, I want it back. I'm going to do this. But it worked well, and like I said, it was kind of messy until it hit me. I need to embed all the functions that Array has from Roku, be it shrink to fit, join, whatever. If I embed all those, because there's no inheritance from a Roku object. Now that I have this in an associative array of functions, I can inherit all day long. But you can't from a Roku thing. So I recreated just pass-throughs for all the Roku functions, and suddenly this became much more usable. Because instead of like I have to do half the stuff using the Roku system, this became inclusive. And that made all the difference. And I'm like, okay, now this works. Now this is sensible. Is it highly efficient code? No. If you were going to do a 1,000,000 entry array and do something very complex, I wouldn't have done it in LINQ and C#. Because LINQ was the fast coding way that was not the ultimate in efficiency. And this is the same thing. You could hand code things to run much better than this. This isn't bad.
Yeah.
But could you get, eke out a little more performance if performance was your absolute goal in a high conv loop or something? Yeah. This isn't made for that. But if you're doing stuff with rational count, array counts or one-offs or simple things, to me, at least for me, this simplifies my code a lot. I like it. That's why I did it.
So other than a pet project, are you using this in any production code? And what types of situations do you find that you reach for it? In what situations are you like, oh, I shouldn't?
If I'm dealing with a ridiculous item count, which in my code I would not reach for this. If I had a 1,000,000 item array, I would not use the select statement. You're better off hand coding. When I'm taking an array and I want to modify it to a dictionary, or like the other day when I was saying I would like the values keyword on dictionaries to where I can just get the values. Well, I use this. This gave me the abilities to just get the values through a select statement. That way, instead of creating a for loop and all that kind of stuff, I just have a single way of getting the values. So that's one way I use this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't actually have a channel I work on, again, I just work on a library. I don't have a lot of use for it. But I started writing this before I was at Disney working on, when I was working on the old FlixReader channel, is when a very rudimentary of the idea of this thing came out. There I was reading, I was going to Vimeo and downloading thousands of it, or it ended up being 800 videos and doing manipulations, all that. And the general construct, worked. I didn't have it near like this, and it wasn't doing the LINQ type stuff. It was just doing a little chaining. But if I was dealing with a large video count, if I was dealing with the user arrays, things like that, this is the kind of stuff I would do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Anyway.
Anybody else have questions? The floor is open.
Unrelated to this, we had a discussion in the Slack the other day on getref, setref, and the global variables.
Yeah, did I hear somebody that had a question about this before we pivot though? I think somebody was going to say
No,
something.
I was just going to say, if you're interested in open sourcing this, are you thinking of including any typings for BrighterScript? Because I would definitely be interested in giving this a go.
Yeah.
BrighterScript.
So you can ship a d.bs file next to your code that allows BrighterScript projects to consume it without you having to actually run it through BrighterScript. It's basically a typedef file for it, like you do from TypeScript.
Because again, I'm not cleared to use BrighterScript, so I've had limited experience with it. I have no qualms, or I would love it to be able to do that. Like I said, I'm going to put it up on Gist when I'm done. It's up there now, but it's not done. But yeah, if it's of use to anyone, absolutely make it part of that. It's just I'm in a weird spot to where I'm been told.
Scott, you can actually, if you're using the VS Code extension, you can actually use the type definitions to get like full in-editor validation without having to run the transpiler. So I think you'd like that.
Okay.
I'll have to show you how to do some of that.
You get the IntelliSense.
No, you will too. If there's one code comment you add to get the IntelliSense, you basically use like a JS comment to say, this variable is that type. And then boom, it validates it all for you without actually having to run the transpiler. I bet you'd love it.
I'll get with you offline on that.
Yeah, that's it.
Typing is one of the things you saw in the demo. I used one item said screen, and you can send it a bunch of types, and it's like, go through the array, and I only want things that are of this type. So when I said like screen string, basically said that dump everything that's not a string. You know, I could have dumped not this, that, the other, whatever. But because of typing. And then the other thing I did, because I have no way to tie this into the Roku type command, is I added a thing saying is collection, so you can see when you're using it, is this a collection or just an AA?
Mhm.
So a silly little adjustment, but it lets you do some type of typing thing, because there's nothing I can do to change the type command or the get type commands in Roku itself.
I think this could be open like in the as like the promises library that was created. It could be something similar that could be published.
Like
Right?
the package management. So RoPM is what you're talking about, like released as like a package you could install. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. But you guys have already the promises, right?
Yeah.
So just put that also link as something that people could use it like easier, like it's reduce the friction.
If you want to collaborate offline, I'm happy to show you how to kind of set this thing up as a RoPM module that people could install.
Let me try to get back on this and finish it. It's one, you know how pet projects go. You get distracted and put it down. And this has been put down for about 4 or 5 months. I need to pick it back up. I think last time I'd messed with it, Marcelo, you had done a play with it on the simulator way back when. And I got distracted on other things and haven't messed with it since, and I need to pick it back up. Because I want to finish it and get it. Because with it being a work in progress, it makes everyone hesitant to use it because the syntax might change. I want to pick it back up and lock the syntax down, saying, hey, if you use it, I won't mess with the backings. You know, I'll keep it backward compatible. So I need to do enough to be able to get that lock-in in place.
And Scott, if this is something that like you want to put out there, but you don't want to do the setup, I have an RoPM module called Rodash, which is kind of like a Lodash version. It doesn't work exactly the same as yours does, and I really like the concept of that. So if it's something you would want to put in there rather than on its own, like we could chat about that if you want. And then we would have like a Rodash collection, and then it would work the way you want. That could be an option if you want. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm open to anything. Other thing I wish Roku had, and I wouldn't even know how to do it with this being an AA-based system. I got 80 functions in this thing. If you use 17, I got 80 functions in this thing. There's no linker that gets rid of the unused code.
No, that's a huge problem that I have in mind.
Well, it's a problem we have with ESPN and Disney Plus. They've hit that 4 meg cap. They've added so much to those applications, and then with the stuff Roku's added with the instant restart, and you have to do this deep linking. If you're not using it, you have to have the It's all bloating the code. It's a conversation I've been having with Luke. And
I'm curious, are you hitting the 4 meg cap even with Squash FS or just standard zip?
Because I just write a library and it's above my pay grade, that all I know is they're fighting the cap. And I don't know if they're fighting it. It's become something in their wheelhouse they're having to deal with. So I can't say how hard they're hitting it or if they're just preparing, if they're uncomfortably close, whatever, but the cap's become a problem. So that's one of the things that's like, and this isn't a big deal. This is, a few K. But you have all the functions you don't use. And because it's an AA, I don't even know how Roku could even change that. I could understand them taking out core functions you don't use. But how do you take out AA functions that didn't get used? Because somebody may call them via a string, and you wouldn't even know they got used. Just one of those things makes me a little nuts, but it is what it is. I don't think that one's going to change. Or they could, this cap has been around for 10 years? The equipment is bigger, change the cap. Our bandwidth is faster, the equipment is higher end. The cap's probably artificially low at this point.
I'm guessing there's probably like a device or a TV or something floating around there that they just can't. Littlefield's still alive?
Yeah, I think so. Liberty.
Oh my gosh. So once that thing dies, I'm sure that they've been I don't know any of this for sure, but there's got to be something in the works to boost that number up. That once, no, you don't think so?
They need a function for the people that are using devices that are so old they have to get rid of the devices, that we should be able to tase them through the remote to get their attention. This is dead. Throw it away and buy yourself a new one.
Make yourself a tight loop. You'll fry the CPUs. That's fine.
But that was tried in the past.
Make-
There were promos on the screen.
Just a channel will fry the device.
I think I have seen it targeted to older devices that say get a discount, change $20 discount.
Yep.
Mhm.
It is a
Yeah,
code.
I got
Click
those.
here.
I got those. Actually, I bought a new one, but still uses the old one. But so it doesn't help.
I sent my Roku 4 to Bronny and I told it, don't let it too close to your other Roku devices.
Mhm.
Dumb out of osmosis.
It's in there. It's in my rack right now, powering all of our Roku community builds. I run benchmarks on it, and yeah, it's getting good use. It hasn't burnt my house down yet.
Yeah, go put your hand, you fry an egg on that device. And that was the upgraded, improved one where they fixed the heating problem. And that thing still runs 150 degrees.
I actually once got a visible burn from a Roku Express stick. I touched the HDMI port at the back because I got the heat warning, and I
Wow.
legit had a burn on my finger for a week or so.
You should have sent the photo to the partner success, and so the legal department will like raise the flag and then deprecate that. It's a liability.
I did actually let them know. I legit did let them know, and that you know, they weren't very apologetic or anything. They just kind of like, yeah, thanks for letting us know.
Guys, the reason there is a limit on the size of the package is because remember how it shows sometimes loading for the channel? Basically, only the last few channels seem to be in memory. For me, at least, like maybe 6 or some small number. And I have 100 channels. So that will determine how long it will take to download it, right? So if it's small, it's really quick. It's kind of like just like almost like compiling.
Yeah. Well, that's what Luke was telling me. It actually does compile at Roku now. So your comments are not counted against you. And we were talking yesterday, unused if clauses, pound if, compiler if are not counted against you. White space is not counted against you. I don't know if they obfuscate variable names down to smaller names. I don't know what they do for code optimization, if anything, but what you send is not what gets sent to the device under most conditions. There are situations, I understand, where what you send can be what goes to the device and it does non-device compilation.
I wouldn't bet that there's a lot of optimization going on, especially since you receive full crash logs still with the source code attached. So,
and the fact it is an interpreted system. I mean, I know they say the bytecode compiler, but it's almost a P code arrangement. So it
is a P code. Roku calls it bytecode. People call it differently, right? There was a P code. What is it called in Java? Is it bytecode? Yes, I guess it's borrowed from there. It's a virtual machine. You can think of it as a virtual machine running it after compilation.
So, but it's easy for us to say, hey, we wish they'd done this. We wish, decisions made, 13 years ago and 10 years ago when they did the new BrighterScript, the new scene graph.
But you shouldn't worry about comments or white spaces because those compress extremely well. So even without compilation, you still don't have to worry about them. And best would be actually to use some program that can sort it out and point you where so you don't do it manually, but where the storage goes. And you will find out, I bet, that it goes in images.
Yeah, images is normally, and then there's I use those like PNG, like tiny PNG or PNG optimizer. Those tools they can help a lot, but I mean it's still very short. I mean when we talk to the other platforms, what the limit in Roku is, people don't believe that you need the 4 megabyte to an application. Yeah, because
vendors hit the limit, or is it just ESPN that I've heard about has been fighting the limit?
Yeah, On Peacock, before Squash FS became popular, we did hit the limit pretty often, and we actually had to put some checks in the CI to make sure no one got through that limit. Once we started using Squash FS, though, things got really under control, and I don't think we hit 3 megs. And that's like obviously after doing a lot of image compression and making sure that we're not putting more stuff than what's needed.
Yeah, stripping glyphs from fonts, that kind of stuff. The code on a very big app I'm working on compresses down to 470K.
Assets.
That's a lot of code.
Yeah, I know we're dealing with various external libraries,
Component libs will do, yeah, if they don't load remotely, that's the problem, yeah.
And some of the libraries, what'll happen, they'll, whoever, FedEx is going to decide to do a library. They can't find a Roku developer because we're all busy. So they tell Fred over at JavaScript desk, learn Roku and do this. And he writes the most inefficient, terrible, bloated library in the world. And it becomes the official library.
No, don't be hard on Fred. It's Jonathan who does Java who makes the bloated, horrible library. Fred on JS. Right. It's the Java guy who reinvents the Java.
No, and it's even worse because they hire the guy writes the code and they get it and they just dump the guy. So when we report back, hey, I have this problem, and they don't have the guy anymore. So they would need to hire another guy maybe to fix, or we fix ourselves. So yeah, it's not
there's one
good experience.
I can't get into great details, but there's one library that was written so bad, and this is a major library, that I know the corporate threw it out, wrote their own, and had about a 18-month fight with the vendor because they didn't want to support the library Disney wrote because their library was so bad. And they finally got it worked out, and they realized, hey, we can't fight Disney, they're kind of big. But it was one, and this is a major vendor, and Disney's like, this library is such a disaster, we refuse to use it. And they threw it out. And
at Roku, there's a couple of libraries which cause all the devices to crash. And I had folks speak to me about it because one of our clients used it, and they asked me about this library. They're like, this library is an absolute nightmare. It's crashing old Roku devices. I won't say who it is, but I mean, it's a major library, and it's just an absolute, it's just dog food,
One thing that helped with that, and it was way back when in like 14, I had made this request saying, can we please get a try-catch exception system? They finally did. So like in my library, every external interface is wrapped in a try-catch. The idea, if my library fails, I can live with that. What I'm doing is not that important. It's just tracking, behavior tracking. If I bring ESPN down so that I can track when you get rewind, they're going to take me out and shoot me. So every external, and I've been very careful, every external facing hook in my library is wrapped in try-catch. Just to make sure my library will self-destruct long before it takes ESPN or Disney Plus offline, because their sense of humor of that would not be in good shape.
My entire app runs inside try-catch, and that's no joke.
Yeah.
That's how you can show that, oops, something went wrong. Shall we restart?
I don't even tell them. All I'm doing is tracking. They don't care if the tracking's going on or not. They don't even know my library shut itself down as it basically committed suicide. We didn't used to have try-catch. And it was a nightmare to, because again, Roku is hyped-ish. It's interpreted-ish, all that. You don't have a
Scott, I don't know if you noticed Naz who got us that. Naz, did you implement it, or did you just pull the levers to get us that? Because you got us try-catch, didn't you?
I pushed for it, yes. And thank you to some of you guys, because if you remember, back then I asked for your thoughts on the subject, and I selected the best hits, the best things that were set, and created like a long page with that, and that helped to push, because there was counter arguments that they don't need it. And another thing that
you should tell like Scott has a spyware. His spyware needs to be silent, cannot crash the application, right?
What we're trying to do basically, again, is behavior tracking. if everyone is starting Lion King and getting out of it, or everyone is skipping this, or if anytime Sports Center starts talking about Tim Tebow, everyone kicks out. They want that literally real time. They want to know instantly we're losing audience, or people are fast forwarding, or people are just hesitating on the Lion King tile and skipping it, and fatigue is set in, get rid of it, and all that. But we don't care if Bromley's doing something. It's just large numbers. No offense, Bromley, but
I'm
shouldn't
joking.
go
I'm not
No,
saying
no.
it's a spyware.
That's
Really.
right.
we're after mob mentality. But yeah, Nas, you and I had the conversation on try catch because we were in the forums and you were in the chat. Forums are of course now gone. On try catch back in like 2013. Because I had done a whole list of stuff I wished I saw, and you got in the list, and we had a big conversation back and forth, and try catch was part of that list.
Yeah.
Because this
So-
went
so
even back before Scene Graph when it was just BrighterScript.
So I was saying, and the other thing that helped was that eval was broken and they never fixed it. And my argument was that eval was used because there was no try catch. Eval was used to control for that, and now that is broken. We need to provide some means for people, and then it's like you lose some, you gain some.
They got rid of eval. I mean, eval had his problems, but you don't cure a sick patient by shooting him in the head. And that's kind of what they did with eval.
Yeah.
No problem. See here.
Scott, are you okay, man? All your analogies were guns today.
That works in a zombie apocalypse, though, surely.
Yeah.
The context is everything, right?
He chose violence.
All good.
You
One
guys,
more thing that talk today, and I thought to write it, but this actually gives idea, I think, for BrighterScript, what Scott was saying, how he instantiates objects, but by cloning the method table instead of always constructing it, right?
Big difference in performance.
So this actually can be optimization for BrighterScript that consider doing that for objects.
Yeah, for
The-
classes specifically, I think, right?
Yeah.
You can't, you don't want to do it for data. That's why like values I have in result on my screen. But for the functions, and if you have a 10, 12, 15 functions, who cares? A 6, one half dozen the other. But like here, if you have 100 functions, 200 functions, creating it once, putting it up in M or in global, no, you can't put it in global, putting it up in M and then just appending it, it's substantial. It's not a mild difference. It's huge.
Yeah.
So
got a
the
question
idea
there.
would be that after creating kind of like a template with the methods, right? It will just pocket it to the side, and when another instance of the same object is created, it will just start with empty array, call append, and it's done.
Now, the one drawback, when I did like the append definitions, these are all first level items. But if in that definitions, I had like an internal array that had additional items, when you get into overriding, because once you do it in an AA, you can kind of treat it as an object with overriding. But you have to be careful because if it's not a first level and you override something deeper, you can actually affect everything else that copied this item. Now, if it's a top level item, you don't have that problem.
Oh, no. So you don't, okay, the very first object that you create, you don't give away to anybody. You pocket it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I thought about optimization, not the very first, but the very second object you
Right.
create. Because in some cases, some are singletons. It's a common pattern that it's an object, but you don't create more than one copy, right? So
I
the
have
simple optimization is like only the second one will pocket a copy and then return
Right.
empty with append, right? So that one you keep to the side, nobody can mutate it.
Right.
Is the append actually
Template, every other one uses the template.
does the so just to clarify here, Scott, he's saying to use append, not even use the template. We take it, and rather than doing 35 lines of equal, you call append with your template, and it copies
That's
that once we.
Can I share a
Right?
screen of you?
Yeah. Naz, do you reckon that'd be quicker?
Yeah, let me share the screen real quick again, because that's exactly
Because that's
So-
interesting, because you can't use a
so what I
template because
was
then you're going
using
to lose the
over is that
context.
if search optimization, so this is the power of transpilation or having a intermediary, is that if such optimizations comes up that is transparent, it can be done without people having to touch their code, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, what I
Yeah,
was trying to do was, I do the append thing. The first one creates, everyone after that just appends. But you have to be careful not to do something where you can change your template accidentally. It won't happen on the top level items in the AA, but it could theoretically happen in nested items in the AA, where you go in and could change the template.
Does this make a big difference? Because this would speed up a lot of BrighterScript apps because the way classes are defined, right? It doesn't have this kind of prototype template object.
It makes a huge difference on performance doing this hoist and copy.
I am running a
Specifically-
benchmark right now to find out. I will let you know momentarily.
Yeah, do.
Specifically, it would be for classes that get created many instances from them, and also classes that have more methods than some, right?
The thing you get into, you clutter your M array, or you create a single entry that has sub entries of your templates, but every dereference has a cost. So in my testing, like I said, it was like about 12 items where this had an advantage. If you're talking a small AA of functions with less than 12 items, you're not really buying anything by hoisting a template based on my testing on my Ultra. It was only if you had a substantial number of functions in your AA that hoisting a template had value.
But you said it doubled, it was twice as fast in your case of
36 functions in this one, and on 10,000 items, or 10,000 instances, I think it was 2.1 seconds to create 10,000 without the hoisting, and like 0.8 seconds to create 10,000 with the hoisting. It was a substantial difference. Again, I mean, we're still talking on today's machines. They're so much faster than the old Rokus that you're not doing huge differences. You're not going to make this big noticeable difference, but optimization is optimization. And me being an old school programmer, old habits die hard.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see if that still stacks up, because they have changed considerably over the years how they do function pointers. So I'd be interested to see that. It might be I'm hoping there's an optimization there because I've got good use for that if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I'd actually be surprised if that didn't get cleared up a bit with the way they dereference functions since 9.2, I think, or 9.6.
Because functions are a reference. You don't create new ones. It finds the old one. But when you do this, it has to look up and find it, because from what I understand, that is a one-time operation, not a
Yeah,
compile.
but they really sped that up a few years back.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Like if it's if it's not like an anonymous function, definitely, George. Yeah, like because they do all that stuff once. The question is if it's like within it and it's like an anonymous function, if it's also doing it there as well. But I would bet it probably is.
Now, one thing I've never known for sure, if I create a collection in my render thread and I create another collection in a task thread, I'm not sharing them through M. I can't share them through global. I've instantiated a collection twice, 2 templates. Are those templates pointing to the same function pointers, or does every thread get its own copy of the functions? I don't know. I haven't really been that concerned about it, but it's a curiosity question. Would every
I think it's own copy, actually.
Luke can answer, but I think it uses the same code as long as it was in the same file. Now consider that technically you have included it twice.
Yes.
What you're asking is if compiler is smart enough that it doesn't create twice the bytecode, and I'm fairly sure that it is.
Okay, see, I didn't know if there was a segmentation problem or a multi-CPU problem.
Yeah,
or something.
I think the optimizations that they added, was it 9 or 10? There was a side effect of that where it actually like dumped some of your component functions into the source scope.
Yep.
And I think part of that is like when they were going through to like make sure things are sharing things, I think that was why. That's why that side effect happened.
That
We should
thing that
ignore
I talked last time, that I called the LINQ scope, that people could call any bytecode that any function that is defined in a BRS anywhere, right? When you are in the main thread, because it's everything on some pool of code that you can access.
That still happens. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And I think it came with RSG version 1.2.
Yeah.
I think it came with that. And like Marcelo was saying that there is a production channel, Big Up, that inherently uses that. Now, to be honest, it would have costed them nothing to move the functions from components to source. The result will be the same. It just will be less terrible, because right now, if you try to fix that, that app will immediately break.
Yeah, and it's probably there are more out there. I mean, like, this is one that I had access to the code, but if people find out something works, they would use it.
No. I actually thought about it, because it doesn't make sense. I think what it was is just they started using some utility function. And if it shows you an error message, you say, oh, I forgot to import it. And because when they used it in main, it didn't show error message, nobody thought about it. It just worked. You don't have to think about, I mean, when it breaks, you have to do something. When it doesn't break, there is nothing there is not even a warning, right? If Roku was barfing a warning, it was eventually you may get annoyed enough to fix it.
Well, it's like when you try to put functions across boundaries, be it task, be it global, whatever, and it just silently strips your functions and objects. It never gives you any information. We know about it now, and we know not to do that. But it's one of those things that the first time it bit me, because I had an AA of a bunch of stuff, including some objects, device, app, stuff like that. I shipped it across a boundary. No warning, nothing. I didn't realize it was going to strip certain items, and my resulting AA was smaller than my original. Sent me in a wild goose chase, because it was.
There are now channels around that rely on that.
Yeah.
Now we know. Now I know never to do that, and I'm very careful about it. But when I was just getting used to a scene graph, all that, and I'm like, oh, I have this. I want her over there. Fine. Well, fine-ish. Mostly fine. Not completely fine.
We have conversation recently on Slack. Somebody discovered that with using getref and setref, you actually can start transferring functions between components. But it's a very specific thing, though.
I did not see that, but I want to see that.
That is described. I think that is described in the documentation.
And it's told
Is
not
it?
to use it.
Obliquely.
That might change.
Yeah.
No, actually, there is a warning in the documentation that you shouldn't do that, and it's it's unpredictable or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Documentation is very careful not to even mention what happens, if I remember.
All right,
Yeah.
you guys ready to see the benchmark results?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show you this. Okay, so here is my setup. This happens outside of the benchmark. I just make a template once. I didn't want to benchmark making the template. I just wanted to see the impacts of once you have a template, is it faster or not? So the first test is make an object, assign 30 props to it. The second one is use an existing template from somewhere and call .append on the object. Did I do this correctly for the append? I'm a TypeScript developer. Is this right? Is the right way to append an
I guess
object?
the bigger question is because you're just doing a reference to the same function there.
Yeah, I mean, I could do different functions, but I would imagine it's the question is, I mean, I can make 30 different functions. I feel like it's going to be the same.
I assume you got a substantial improvement.
Yeah, so here we go.
By the way, the append doesn't return the object. It's just a void function, so you need to split that actually.
Good to know. Really doesn't. That's no fun. It says as object.
See,
That one's bit me several times.
Oh, breaks my heart. Oh, we should probably do it again because now we got two operate. It might be the same, but
when I create my dictionary system like this of the collection system, append will return the object because the whole idea is changing.
It's a mutator, so it kind of makes sense that it doesn't return.
I mean, the whole point of this whole collection thing was everything returns the object. So you chain it.
Yeah, but that's a different purpose.
all All right, about the same. So yeah, so having an existing object that you call append with is over twice as fast.
That's what I found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And by the way, I was going to say that you should have used on top, you should have used a dictionary literal instead of multiple line of assigning it.
Yeah,
But I think somebody tested it and turns out that this one, for a known reason, is faster.
well,
so-
we can find out.
You're good. Okay. Let's test it, like I said.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're doing here, but I would think that the append is knows ahead of time what size the thing is, doesn't it? So that lets it go quite a bit faster.
Okay.
Actually, I want to argue that a little bit with you, because when I was testing, when I wasn't using the append, I was setting my array using create array and giving it the size, and then creating all my functions, and the append was still substantially faster.
I just
we
ran
have
it
a way-
online. I just got an AI to make something that does it. For me, I'm only seeing 3 milliseconds of difference. I'm not using the same function pointer. I'm using a new function every time, so 20 different functions.
Yeah, mine's 76 distinct functions.
Yeah,
So
so
they-
I don't know if that's hampering your results later on, but I've just run something where I'm making 20 functions, one on a template, I'm doing it 5,000 times, and I'm getting times of 66 and 57 milliseconds. So it's almost the same for me. So.
And by the way, this same performance difference, you can actually spot it with just standard arrays as well. If you do an array literal with some elements versus an empty array and you keep appending to it, appending is faster. So it seems like the literal isn't as optimized as it could be. And I think I saw this with you.
So the literal, we just saw it that the literal is the slowest of them all.
Yeah,
right?
the literal is even slower, which is crazy because the compiler
is.
should like know something more than the
Yeah,
one
I have
by one.
everything in my hand already, right? That doesn't need to
So,
I
and
think,
I
yeah,
have
we could-
explanation to that. The explanation is that when you assign it with dot, it actually does a minor optimization of pre-compiling the hash of the member. I mean, for me, I have an explanation. Versus the dictionary literal, it doesn't do that.
I think there's a few different reasons. I think we've even got some tasks in the backlog to go and fix it, which we'll try and work on. But certainly one of the reasons is that that I think it was spotted by Ben probably a year or so ago. And yeah, if you look at the code that's generated for the arrays especially, is particularly inefficient.
George, I just ran it again with 30 different functions and I'm getting about the same results.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, I see what you're doing. I'm defining my functions in line directly on.
Yeah, I don't think it will matter that you were
No.
using one function or multiple functions.
I applied them in line, and I was getting a little over a 2-to-1 improvement if I hoisted a template and then assigned from the template.
Which
Like,
one do
if
you
I
want?
had more than about a dozen functions, at less than a dozen functions, it was the same difference.
I'm expecting there to be no difference with them inline versus not, but because they get hoisted anyway. Like at compile time, they get basically lifted and given random anonymous names,
Yeah.
and that I don't think there's any difference,
I
right?
pasted up some code. And
Interestingly enough, actually, anonymous functions will run faster. The creation of the object, when you call them, they will execute faster.
George, what are you doing in this code that's different? Okay, that's fine.
Well, you guys do that. I'll run a little test on mine.
At least I can deploy to that Roku device.
That's interesting. I'm
I'm curious about that optimization of about the asynchronous, the anonymous functions running faster. Is that because of name resolution or something like that? I'm just theorizing. I don't know what the internals of it, but
Yes, it is.
interesting.
What's the difference in speed?
So invoking an anonymous versus invoking non-anonymous is the question.
I guess just overall.
Like those are the two things we're talking about, right? It's do I have an anonymous one here? Let's add another one. So we've got
Guys, I'm leaving, but nice conversation. Thank you again.
See,
I will
Marcel.
watch the video to see the end.
Yeah.
See you later.
oh gosh.
I think you'll find that there's not much difference between anonymous functions and
And
functions.
is it
in the
running?
SDK1
Look,
main
if it's not running on main, there will be difference because of the lookup for RSG, right?
Correct. But if you're between main, if you're on main, there's probably not much difference.
So I don't know if the test. I don't know if is the test running on main, on task thread, or on
Mine's
render
running
thread.
on main.
This is also on main, I believe. I haven't been able to break out my benchmarks yet to run them in smaller granular chunks so I don't time out the devices yet.
Yeah, and though although there is an overhead, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not that big. I think if you've got if your functions are not doing anything at all, then it is quite significant. But if they're doing it more than like a handful of things, it's just lost. It's not
So does this look like a fair, like I wanted to normalize getting access to the function and then executing it. Do you feel like this should still closely reflect that, or do I need to somehow like call this directly? Like, do you want me to do it like an iffy? I could do that, I guess, and then I'm not even assigning it. Right, I guess that's the fairest approach. So I'm not even making a variable for getting the functions, I'm calling them directly. Which, by the way, I was so happy when I found out this existed, that you could make the function anonymously like that and then wrap it in parentheses and call it. I'm so glad that worked.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it works.
for ternary transpiling. That's how we do some of the
Oh,
inline.
no, sorry. I thought you were saying something else. Yes, I did know.
Oh.
Thank you.
Let's see how it does.
So if this is running on main thread, the difference will be less or none.
Okay.
But you actually need to do it on render or task thread to.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. I can't pivot and do that quickly enough. That'll
Yeah.
be
So this is the same.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Okay, I'm doing the same test on. I can pivot that quickly, so I am
Sweet.
testing it on the Roku device right now.
do share.
I could not, I'm afraid, for various reasons. But I can tell you what happens.
We just have to take his word for it.
Oh, I'll show you the results. I just won't show you the code.
That he types up himself. He's like, hey, yeah, give me some results that favor my specific
Right.
Well, I think he's a bit invested in the results here to like if he can get some performance gains.
Yeah, let me give it a go. Let's see what happens.
Might actually sell me on the anonymous functions.
Oh, non-functions are great. Let's see what happens. Just running. I don't know if it's going to run. I'm kind of doing something a bit crazy. But...
If anybody wants to help me upgrade my benchmark library to run it all on, the render thread somehow, break it up into little smaller chunks, that would be awesome.
Well,
I mean, you're already doing the calculation for the number of iterations to do it, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, should you not be able to basically just say like, I need to stick in this time window for each test?
Yeah,
right?
I just need to do it, and if it's facilitate the run it next tick until I get my iteration counts.
Yeah, you basically just use like a timer. That's how I did it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just need to do it.
Yeah.
Well, do a task thread. That's easy, right?
Okay, my
I mean,
little
Wait, so a task thread would give me the same amount of performance impact as the render thread? Really? So main is special.
Yes.
main is special.
Or rather, RSG is special. And task thread and render thread run on RSG. So
I just did my little test on just that collection thing I was showing you. To generate 100,000 collections takes me 5.2 seconds. I went and changed my collection routine to get rid of that whole hoisting thing, to where it just loads the functions. 16 seconds.
Yeah, that makes a ton.
3-to-1 difference by hoisting those functions and doing the append.
Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant. I'm glad you shared that. I'll be using that.
And again, when I was testing earlier, if you just have a few functions, you don't have that advantage.
Yeah.
You gotta have a lot of functions for it to be worthwhile.
So what do you think about like memory with all of this stuff? If you've got, 30 or 40 different kind of class structures and you're building them kind of all over the place, that stuff sort of lives on M forever then.
Yes.
I mean, it may not be that much, but
Yeah, it should just be references. So,
And if you
like, you're talking about the functions probably, or are you talking about the data?
no, the functions, like it would be like my function template.
Yeah, it should just be like references. So
now, if you do like a templates under M and then you put your various templates under templates, you've added another 7 microsecond dereference every time. But every time you do a dereference on my Ultra, it's like 7 microseconds.
Yeah.
It's not a huge number, but it's a measurable number.
Yeah, I would likely. Yeah, I don't know how I would do this. I have to think about it.
Unless you're
I
generating.
wouldn't be worried about memory. I would be worried sort of that polluting M, but there is no other option, right?
Yeah.
So we'll need to add something with lots of underscores or something, right? That says templates or class templates or whatever. That kind of like internally bothers me a little bit, like putting droppings, not the memory and not the speed. It's just kind of like, the cost of, there is something here.
I mean, if we get global, global storage somewhere, I'm happy to put it there.
M.
No, or closures would let me store it, internal to where I wanted it. So, just saying, we've solved these problems other places.
I get the same results, by the way. So I don't know what I'm doing different in my experiment. You guys got the code, but for me it's 66 versus 57 milliseconds, even on a component thread. So
you're doing a number of iterations.
5,000.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing different, but I mean the code's there if anyone can see it, because I would do the optimization, but that's my use case where I would need it.
Now, one thing I am doing, my functions are all, it's not an empty function. There is, code in every one of those functions. That is,
well, and that was kind of the point I was making. Like if it actually is having to compile that or do some sort of extra work, like in that case versus just like a function ref in both cases, then that could explain it.
Yeah, because I assume it's having to look at the function and say, have I addressed this before already?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my 76 functions are 76 distinct. They're small, 2, 3, 4 lines each. But
your ones aren't anonymous on the template, the actual function's somewhere else. And maybe it's that, but it seems from what I'm seeing, if the function's declared as a value on an associative array, it doesn't seem like there's any benefit to hoisting, as far as I can tell.
I saw 3-to-1.
Yeah, but I mean, you're using actual functions and subs that are declared elsewhere, whereas I'm using anonymous ones directly on an AA. So maybe I've already lost some performance there that I'm unaware of. I couldn't explain it, but I'm doing exactly what's in that code. I've done that on main. I've done that in render thread, and in all cases, it's just a few milliseconds difference. So
when you have A through T, is it recognizing that they're all the exact same function and just reusing? Do you end up with A through T? I'm looking at the code on the right, the AI generated code. Are you ending up with 21?
Let me try that. That's a really good point. Let's do that. Okay, yeah, that's a really good point. I'll have it scanning in a second. I'll just ask a friend to go do it for me. Make the functions multi-line. I'll be back to you in a sec. Yeah, it will do this. I think that could be it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not. It's just made one function.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to run that now. That's ready to go. Let's go. Yeah, because believe me, this is getting the speed gains you're saying. I'd want to use it.
But at the other side of the argument, with today's hardware, the speed optimizations aren't as critical as they once were. They're still nice. We still want to write efficiently, but an Ultra compared to a Roku 2 are completely different animals on performance, obviously.
I get the same.
Although we do still have the 37, actually the Liberty's even lower. So still quite a delta between the two of them.
So let it burn.
I never did get used to the class names versus the model numbers, just never paid enough attention to it.
Yeah.
So if we're saying this is this and this is that and this is, a Fred and this is a Ralph and this, I just never really paid attention to what's what.
Yep.
I go, the Ultras and the.
Yeah, I always just look at the Roku has that device specifications page or like that. That's where I'm always.
Roku has been releasing Premiere for tens of years now. And each year it's different actually underneath. So unless we start calling them like cars with the model year.
George.
Yeah. I'm doing this now just so you can see. And so I've got 20 different functions.
Yeah.
And I do it 1,000 times, and then that's the second star. That's correct, right? I'm making new instance and then append the template the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I'm literally doing a for loop over, and I get, just so you know, because I don't want you to think I'm making this up, I get that. So I don't know.
You're a stand-up guy.
I don't know if you add more code, if that's what does it, but for me, these are now all distinct functions. So I really.
That's an interesting point, but
yeah,
I wouldn't expect them to collapse the functions.
Now, you are getting a little bit of improvement, and again, it seems very tied to number of functions. So you're doing what, 20?
No, the thing that bothers me there is such a small number of milliseconds, 55 versus 60. I really don't trust that tests that have run that fast. Give me something with 4 or 5 digits.
So we're talking about append, yeah?
Yeah.
Just so I'm in the fortunate position, I can actually look at the code.
So look, the talk was about a minor optimization about how BrighterScript does classes. Typically, the creation of an object instance is by, creates an empty AA, and then it just adds all the methods to it. The potential optimization is instead to have that one to the side, tucked to the side as a template. A new instance is created by creating AA and then doing append from that method table.
So
and that one.
I'd expect, and looking at the code, I'd expect append to be faster, but actually also looking at the code.
People have Visual to be about twice as fast doing it that way.
Yeah, I think there's a missed optimization in there as well. In the code.
We won't complain if you make it even faster.
If someone's got a handy benchmark, I can just throw me a benchmark and I could chuck it into a.
I'd be curious.
Luke, I just put. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I was going to say I would be curious on George's thing if AI would make that 100 functions or 200 functions versus 20. If our 10% would increase dramatically.
Luke, I don't know if you guys have seen my BS Bench library. I don't know. I think I saw somebody playing with it a little bit. I just pushed up a couple new. You can look at my most recent commits up there. I just pushed a couple new benchmarks that are doing some of the stuff we've just been talking about. The anon versus named, and then append versus defined. So those would be interesting to run. I think append versus defined is probably the most interesting one there. George, was your mark? Does it reset? Like, is there something that you need to make a new timestamp?
No, I realized I hadn't compiled that last one, so I'm running it again.
Okay.
It didn't detect that as a change in my code.
Yeah, because I saw the same numbers again.
Yeah, yeah, the mechanism I used to put that BrighterScript in my code meant it didn't realize my code base had jumped. So let's see. Now I'm going to run it and see what I get now.
And also, just for reference, I am running my iterations is 236,000 times for those loops.
36,000. Okay.
Now I'm doing this on main. I think you were too, though. But I don't know how long that takes to run. Wait, hang on. This is the
oh, yeah, okay, yeah. No, that's considerably different for me now.
one
One
of the things is that time span is also not super precise, and so you need to do it a lot more iterations in order to get a more accurate number.
You know what I think it is? I think it was we had the same function. I think the compiler just said that's exact same function, and then when I put the print statements in, I hadn't updated my code to say, hey, do a rebuild, and I hadn't noticed. And so for me, the difference I get now, I mean, it's sheer.
That's interesting, because
1,374 milliseconds versus 117. So I'm definitely going to be using this optimization as soon as I get off this meeting.
I've been using it all. I've had good luck with it. I like hoisting things because it does make a difference on the way Roku deals with arrays. Hoisting is huge. And when you're dealing with the dotted notation. So when you have, some array or global .a.b.c, and you hoist, I'm working with global.a.b.c, and then you always deal with that. It's a substantial difference. Just because dereferencing, just like creating the items, has a cost.
Can you imagine if we had bind in BrighterScript, how amazing that would be? Because you could declare a class with a template and then just bind to it on all the calls. Then you wouldn't even have to do half of this stuff.
That's a really good point. Well, you could have one template per class type, but you can't use you still have to do append. You definitely still have to do append.
You still have to do append. You want to put your variables in your initial definition of your AA and then append the functions.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Like I said, I've been using it a long time and it's done very well for me.
Luke, I'm going to send you a link to that benchmark in case that's helpful.
I'm going to step away for 1 sec.
I would love to see optimizations done for the literal associative arrays. I think that would be really, really nice. I think there's a lot you can do in there.
And you're doing an append onto an existing empty AA, is that right?
So that's the one test. Yep. The other test is just make an empty AA and plop each property on one at a time. And then the other one is making a literal associative array with each prop defined with colons in between. I can show you that again.
What is surprising is that the literal is the slowest of it all. Like, it's counterintuitive, and people will expect. In fact, before measuring, we were expecting that it is faster than 100 lines that individually do dot assign.
Yeah, so make an object, call append. Make an object with all of the props as literals, and then make an object where each value is assigned directly. And then this is just a setup for the other one. That one doesn't really count. So yeah, I'm surprised that this should not be faster than this. It just shouldn't. It's crazy.
So like I was saying, I believe when you're doing above object.func equals something, compiler pre-computes the hash for the func 20, which in the literal case, I think it computes at runtime.
I wonder why wouldn't it compute every one of these references across the entire system? Because this, to me, these are essentially the same. Like you see that it's a like how would it know how to do this ahead of time and this one not ahead of time? Or is it just that
Not that one. Not that one. The left side. GObject.func. See,
Probably are those the same number of functions you're assigning?
I think so. 1 to 30. Right?
Okay, I was just seeing the top of one at the bottom of the
Oh,
other.
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
so associative arrays are implemented through a kind of hash, right? So when you try to access a key inside it, it calculates hash on it and then goes looking into the hash table. So there is the element of calculating the hash, right? The hash function on a string.
But wouldn't that be for the literal an advantage versus the opposite?
You would think so, but no. Because looking up something in assignment or the value like object.key, that is very, very common. It's not only when you create, right? You do it all the time. So I believe they did this optimization only there.
Okay. So it's just they were looking for ways to speed things up, found that this was a hot path and did it, and this was like, not as hot of a path, and so it didn't get the same treatment.
Interesting.
Maybe. Yeah.
And if that is the case, then it would explain why literal is slower, because it doesn't make sense that it's slower, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to a reasonable person.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with just simple arrays. Like an array literal is slower than just pushing stuff to an array.
Really?
Appending. Yeah.
Now that I
Wow.
cannot explain.
We have a bunch of styles in our app where we declare, the arrays for transforms or clipping rects, things of that nature. And yeah, making an experiment to create an empty array and then pushing stuff to it ends up being faster. Or
Wow.
in this case, appending elements, yeah.
And are you sizing the array to be the size that you're going to need?
No. We don't use the create objects row array with the fixed size.
Append, and that's still faster than
Then just making one array with like all of the values.
That's crazy.
That is disturbing, yes.
Fun stuff. Lots of stuff to look into for the performance team, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got my numbers. I missed a 0 on one of my. It wasn't like for like. I literally did 10 times more work on one of the runs than the other. So
You're
now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think for my use case, I'm not actually seeing much performance difference there at all. So this is my
Amazing.
final test. I've just double checked everything. And
Now, just to clarify, like if all I'm doing is assigning, and so if you're testing anything else, these numbers go so much less important.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a very much micro optimization. The moment your function does a single print, well, boom, the entirety of the optimization is probably watered down like significantly.
Although
Yes,
everybody knows
we
they're
like 15
terrible
minutes
for
ago.
performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like most of if you're not in a loop with a lot of iterations, none of these optimizations matter anyway. If you're just trying to do a little bit in between a user pressing a key or something, all the optimization in the world ain't gonna make a difference. It's all about loops.
okay, what do I
All right, so we can continue this topic on Slack, I think, guys, because some things involve testing and stuff. But to me, it's interesting thought that BrighterScript can hypothetically, as optimizations are discovered of this kind, could change the way code is generated, and developers are none the wiser in the sense they won't suffer, but they will benefit. So that
I mentioned
kind of like
another similar one with mtop hoisting it to top ref for the user as well.
Yeah, that's another good example of an optimization. So like if you're doing a whole bunch of code, let's just go in here. If you're doing, why am I in redoing that? There we go. So thing1 equals m.top.thing1, and then that there. The moment we've done, I think it's the third one maybe would be the optimization.
Even at 2.
So at 2, it would be a lift and then 2 reads. So you end up with 3. No, 2v1. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's still faster even as soon as you hit the second one.
Yeah, you're right. So as a, we'll call this bad. We'll call this good. We can do M top or, you know, ESC magic, blah, blah, blah. M top equals M dot top.
You should definitely do that.
Yeah, I do hoisting all the time like that, but I never thought of it being at 2 items that would be advantageous.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm only saying that because they're trying to spot, like, is it worth doing it in a compiler or not? Like, you could.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't do it because it's a micro optimization, and I don't like it. It's easier to follow, but like that's a perfect example where BrighterScript can totally do that behind the scenes and, you know, make it better.
Yeah. Is there any reason the Roku compiler couldn't do that for us? Like, you can read exactly M dot top in those situations, and like, you know, with 100% certainty, it's going to be M dot top, right? Well, except we know you can reassign M, but if you do that, we'll. I don't know. I feel like M dot top should be like, there should be no hits for hoisting this versus not. It should be like quick.
How much difference does it make? I'm surprised it makes any.
I can't test that one right now because I only have main benchmarks.
It makes a whopping difference, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got like for example, a cell that you're putting into a row list and you're hitting M dot top repeatedly, it's going to absolutely hammer you on performance. That's the kind of thing when anyone joins a team, that's one of the first things everyone's looking out for on their PRs, I think. To try and teach them that don't hit M dot top 20 times in one render function. It shouldn't make any difference in my opinion, but it does.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we are at 1 hour and 43 minutes. I think we can call this for the day. This was fun. Thanks, everyone. And I'll try to upload this sooner rather than later. I think it was like 3 weeks late last time. Yeah,
the link stuff's great, Scott. Thanks for sharing that. I think
Yeah.
it's really good work. I'm sure Disney really appreciate all that stuff you're doing. It's fantastic.
Media collection one is just fun. You know, it started out as an academic thing. Can I do LINQ on Roku? And it's just fun. But you could make it. We don't see you here often, George. Maybe next month too.
I have a worship practice on Thursdays, so yeah, I have to go to a music practice. So yeah, it's an awkward time for me. I will make it when I can.
Awesome.
Nice to see everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Hey, guys. I think that went well.
Yeah. Let me click stop.